Lawyers and bad tenants would be the only ones who benefited from a proposed law in Denver, Colorado that would force landlords to fund lawyers for tenants. I'm Tony, and this is Real Estate Investing and Landlord News. All right, so I have an interesting article for you today, and it's really an update for another article that I covered about this proposal up in Denver, Colorado. And this proposal, what it's basically doing is, what they want to do is they want to basically tax landlords a certain amount for each unit they own so that they can fund lawyers, free lawyers for tenants. Now, this is a horrible idea, okay? I do not believe that in a civil lawsuit where you have one side going against the other side, that lawyers should be provided by the government or by the taxpayers or by landlords themselves, for the other side. I mean, that's ridiculous, okay? If you're paying for a lawyer for one side, you need to pay for the other side as well in a civil case. So yeah, it's absolutely ridiculous. And yeah, I have a huge problem with it. The way that this law was written, it ignores the reality of the fact that the majority of evictions that are going on, they have late rent, okay? They are non-payment of rent. They're not because the landlord's being evil or vindictive or any of that, right? The majority of evictions are for non-payment of rent. I believe I read in an article recently that 90%, that's 9 out of every 10 evictions, is for that very reason. There's no fighting that, okay? Maybe you can work it out, but that's something you should have done before you got to the eviction court in the first place, okay? That's my opinion. Rather than sitting there and saying, hey, now landlords, they're kicking these people out and all that. Well, why? Why are we in eviction court? In most cases, because the people aren't paying their rent. Okay, so what we need a process in place that gets these people out of the units quickly and with low cost to the landlord so they can get those units filled again. You think any of us want to go through the eviction process? You think this is what we enjoy? No, we just want to get paid the money that we're owed. It cost me thousands of dollars every single time I have to go all the way through the eviction process, okay? Thousands of dollars, and I don't like spending that sort of money. And don't think for one second that, I'm doing it because I'm mean or evil or whatever. Yeah, I'm doing this, pulling thousands of dollars, losing thousands of dollars because I'm mean. Ooh, well, I must be an idiot if you think that's the case. So yeah, what the lawyers really will do, right, when they get these lawyers in there, they will, file motions and go through all this rigmarole and garbage that will drag out the process and allow people who can't pay their rent to stay in your unit for even longer. Okay, so rather than, getting those people out of there quickly, after a month of not payment of rent, they might be in there for 2, 3, 6 months, who knows how long, just accumulating debt that they can't pay. And guess who it falls back on? It falls right back on the landlord. So yeah, I'm totally against this stuff. The election is going to be, this video is going to come out on Tuesday. So Tuesday is election day. So I asked that, hey, if you're up there in Denver, Colorado, you vote against this if you're a landlord, okay? I'm sure the tenants, this is a great idea. The law of unintended consequences always hits, right? And they'll see it in the terms of rents going up, harder selection criteria for rental housing, and a lot less people wanting to be landlords. So before I get into the article, go ahead, hit the like and subscribe button, and leave a comment down below. Let me know what you think. Okay, I've asked this question before, but what do you think of the government paying for lawyers for tenants? Or in this case, them taxing landlords or, making landlords pay a fee to provide lawyers for the ones they're fighting in court. Okay? I mean, you know how ridiculous that is? That would be like you saying, hey, I got into a car accident, with somebody else, and they destroyed my, they ran their car into my car, and now my car is destroyed. Now I want to sue them, right? But, we're going to force them to pay for my lawyer. That doesn't make any sense. We're talking about a civil suit here between two private parties. And, one being the landlord, one being the tenant. So The lawyers should be on those individuals, not on the government, not on, one party paying for lawyers for both of them. That's stupid. Anyway, let's get into this article. This article is coming from the ColoradoSun.com, and it says, opinion, a ballot measure that won't help renters, but lawyers are sure to love. The Denver proposal would force landlords to fund lawyers for tenants in case of eviction. Rents will go up as a result. Yep, and they sure will. That's the whole problem when you add in these sort of regulations. But let's get into the article and see what it says. Ordinance 305, appearing on Denver's municipal election ballot this year, has many issues once you get past its seemingly benevolent purpose. The proposed tax measure creates a right for a tenant under eviction to receive an attorney at the expense of all the rental property owners in Denver. If the measure passes, it raises the following issues. Rent will increase so rental property owners can afford their own lawyer in the eviction conflicts to come. Property owners will have an incentive to rent only to premium renters, and it creates an incentive structure for more eviction litigation. And that's exactly what we're going to see, all three of those things. And this is the same stuff I just said, basically, right? So yeah, the property owners are going to have to raise rent because they know they're going to be going through a ton of litigation with all of these free lawyers that are passing out, Like lawyers, I know that some of them are doing a good job. I'm not going to say that all lawyers are bad. I'm not one of those people, right? But there are a lot of lawyers who just want to get paid. And they will, they don't have good intentions in mind. They want to drag the process out. They want you to settle out of court. They want to make their money. And they're going to, rather than fighting for what's right, they're going to fight for themselves, okay? And, they're the only true winners in this situation. The tenants aren't going to win when they can't find a place to rent because all the landlords done, given up or raised their rents really high or increased their selection criteria. The tenants don't win in that sort of situation. The only winners would be the lawyers and bad tenants brandishing their new right. The new tax proposed by Ordinance 305 is only $75 per rental property. That doesn't sound like much of a price to be passed from owner to tenant, but it hides a much larger cost. The cost it hides is the potential recurring legal fees that the property owner will be responsible for, caused by the inevitable eviction of a bad tenant. If a bad tenant has access to a legal slush fund to receive an attorney, the property owner will need their own legal representation to have a chance in court. The cost of any legal question when lawyers get involved can be pricey and drawn out. Yeah, a lot of landlords, especially the smaller mom and pop landlords, will go to eviction courts themselves, okay? They will go and, fight their case against their tenant by themselves. But how are they supposed to do that if they go into the court without a lawyer and, these fees, etc., are paying for lawyers for the tenants? So they would be at a huge disadvantage. They're going to have to hire a lawyer now. See, that's something they don't talk about because there's so much discussion of these large, mega landlords, but the reality of the situation is that the majority of landlords are not these large mega ones, okay? The majority of landlords own less than 4 properties, okay? They might have one single family rental that they rent out aside from the home they live in. And when they have to go through the eviction process, it is very difficult for them if the tenant has a lawyer and they don't. That is, I'm not saying that the tenant shouldn't have the ability to get a lawyer. What I am saying is that the taxpayers or the landlords in this situation should not pay for it, okay? It should be equal playing field, where you have the landlord paying for their lawyer, the tenant paying for their lawyer. That's the way I've always thought this stuff should go. It's like the government is picking the winners and the losers in the situation. They're like, well, the government wants the tenant to win the lawsuit. Why is the government choosing who they think should win? It's wrong, This potential looming price on property owners creates a hard question to answer. How do I afford to get my own lawyer? Their only answer is to estimate the cost of a lawyer, the new higher probability that an evicted tenant will have a lawyer, and pass that cost on to good tenants in the form of higher rental prices over time. further burdening good tenants. Higher rent isn't the only change you can expect. With the new looming threat of litigation, property owners are now incentivized to offer their units only to premium renters. Individuals with long rental history, high credit scores, high incomes, and professions with perceived stability. Well, you know what I say? You should have already been doing that, okay? I mean, I upped my selection criteria specifically for my single family rentals. My duplexes are lower income duplexes, but I still insist upon putting the best tenants in my units that I can possibly get, okay? You should always be looking for a premium renter. You know, you're not, if you're letting in people right now who are, kind of just barely scraping by, then you're not doing things right. We have more tenants than there are rental units out there, okay? There's plenty of people to choose from, and I just don't see why we should, go with people with lower credit scores, etc., okay? So, yeah, I mean, you can tighten your criteria up more. You can always do that. Say, yeah, we want people with even higher incomes, and we want people with even better credit scores or better rental history. But you should have already had pretty good standards on your property. And if you are one of those landlords who doesn't mind that sort of thing, well, this law here could be the catalyst to make you change your ways and come over to the being like me, where, hey, I don't want the barely getting by tenant up in my unit. I want the best tenant possible. Now, unfortunately, what that usually leads to is, in certain cities, they've passed laws that say, well, you have to choose the first tenant who applies, or something ridiculous like that, right? And all of the situation, it's caused by all these different laws that have been passed. Okay, they see that landlords are trying to work around the law and not do things the way that they want, and then they lash out at us and they'd want to punish us. Yeah, this is ridiculous. I hope that this law up in Colorado doesn't pass. I honestly don't know for sure what's going to happen, but I have my doubts that things are going to be good for landlords up there after tomorrow.